If you see a knife, run. He slipped. He didn't see it. He couldn't run. He was with his family. He was being chased. He was protecting others. So, if it is your only option, what are you going to do now? First of all, you must recognize the threat, the danger signals and body language. Be aware of your surroundings. Here, for example, he pulled out a knife from a magazine and randomly attacked. Always check what nearby people are holding. Don't be lured, run away if possible, and use a gun or pepper spray if available. The old fencing masters say that the keys of fencing are measure, time, and manner. We will exploit them to win against the blade. Measure means distance. As long as you are outside the knife's range, you are safe. Place objects between you and the aggressor. Use nearby items to gain a range advantage, like a chair if you can. If you are less than 5 meters away, you can't run without risks, because you might get chased and caught or stabbed while running. It's also difficult to maintain an established distance if the attacker charges you. So you have to counterattack. When you are too close, going forward is actually safer than retreating. Time means timing. If you react to an attack, you are almost always too late, especially if you're very close. You must anticipate the attack and strike before the blade is moving. Always assume that threats are carrying knives if they try to close the distance. Be aware of hands in the pocket or behind the back. Make defense by placing your hands up, slightly oblique stance, cover the neck with the shoulder and slightly move to look for a favorable angle while trying to de-escalate if suitable. Be ready to anticipate. Manner means technique. The techniques I will teach you come from a study of real knife attacks. A study of all combat arts from people who truly had to face blades to survive. A study of modern fighting arts and combatives, tests under pressure and resistance. Ultimately though, the aim is not necessarily to defeat the aggressor, but to create an opening to run away. First situation: run, grab, and series of steps. To anticipate the grab, you must deflect and move to the side. It's a strong deflection, almost like a hammer fist. If distance allows, you can also use a check hook, which means stepping out to the side and striking with a hook. If you fail to anticipate and are grabbed, the priority is to stop the arm to minimize the damage, but with the other arm, he can frame you while retracting the arm hand away. You will never have a solid control. So, take an outside diagonal step, forward or backward, and rotate your body, placing your tricep over his arm. Squat so that a good portion of your weight weakens the grab. And then open and grab the body. While moving over, the hand is near the head and ready to protect. The other arm makes contact with the arm and slides to the end of the forearm. If you stay on the crease of the elbow, it can still stab. If you stay just below, you have strong control. You can frame with the palm or use mantis hands. The important thing is to always follow the arm like a shadow. You can also enter with a check hook and then continue the technique. In this case, I can do it because the distance allows it. If he was taller, I would have gone in as I did before. This technique works with various grabs: lapel grab, throat grab, chest grab, collar tie, shoulder grab, forearm thrust, but here it's quicker to use the shoulder or palm to deflect. In a tight collar tie, if you don't anticipate a stab, you are almost guaranteed to get caught. At this distance, you can go in right away. You don't need to use your arm to open. When you go in, even if you have the outside angle, if you don't break the aggressor's posture, you are in an even situation. He can throw you. When you enter, you must become a battering ram and headbutt the attacker to the head or body, using the forward momentum of your entire body to break the posture. Then, with your other hand, control the attacker's arm and push it away for greater control. So 1, 2, and 3. To throw, you can sweep with your knee or foot. The important thing is to enter deep and push the attacker's weight onto the rear leg. This makes the throw easier. If he's not too heavy, you can lift him and slam him if necessary. If he's too heavy, you can use Tani Otoshi, which uses your full body weight. The blow comes from above, the maneuver is the same, but you must be careful to block above the elbow and raise your shoulder to protect your neck if you miss. If he resists a lot and you can't switch to double control, it's okay, you can still throw. There's also this variation if you like. If he blocks you and you can get to the side, then you have to overhook, change position, remove the other arm and throw. I can pass, so I change. Second situation, step with the front hand. In this case, block with the arms crossed, which allows you to fully protect your side in a semicircle. If he feints low and then goes up, I recommend always to use the turtle shoulder. When you block, create a gap with your body and try to block on the wrist and not the forearm, because the blade could be very long, and then dash forward immediately, because he will retract his arm. Get an underhook, strike with knees to the groin, and control the neck with a backswing. I prefer this position to the inside 2-on-1, not because it can work, but because it's much easier to get out from behind or hit from behind. I find it less safe. If you frame with the other arm, you can take a T position and he can get behind you or hit from behind. To break his posture, don't do a lat row, put the weight on him. The arm makes an underhook, and the head and shoulder press, creating a clamp that blocks the arm's movement. He can still move his wrist, but it won't cause serious damage and he won't have time to think about it anyway. Do the same for overhead strikes, to the body with a nice big grip. This is the full action. There are 3 depths of control. After the elbow, it still leaves enough movement. It works, but it's riskier. Close to the elbow is ideal. Before the elbow, it's a weaker control, but you can still work with it. Extending the other arm is a way to improve control if you are too deep. You can also change position in this way. If you clearly understand that the strike is coming from above, go over to the sides by lowering your head, then go into an overhook. The technique is the same. Always assume a T position, never stand in front of the attacker. As you can see, the control is excellent. There are other options that can also be done with the underhook. One is a guillotine and rotation. The other is a push to the back of the head and rotation. If you don't want to grapple, the best option is to parry and punch. The parry is strong and is done on the wrist to keep the blade length in consideration. Also create a void with the body. Don't deflect too much to the outside, because it can come back up. Send a diagonal downward parry and punch like lightning. Crossed arms also work from the outside, but the control changes. We'll see that shortly. If the aggressor starts backing up and attacks rapidly and tight, it's best to disengage or draw a tool, but they might suddenly charge you. If he advances with a series of slashes, if you need to enter and you move too far away, you'll get hit. Cover yourself, dodge as little as possible, and re-enter and return. Entering on the first attack, like in this clip, is extremely hard. It's best to wait for a change of direction and wider strikes. If you can deflect, you might get cut, but it will give you more time to enter. Once you enter, get a Russian tie control. One hand from over or under his wrist. The other under the armpit, not on the bicep, it's weaker. As close as possible to the shoulder. Pull the arm to leverage the elbow and simply bow. You can also add a leg block. The best anticipation is getting the back. From behind, it's crucial to close his hand so it doesn't change his grip. I can also control part of the blade. It's a solid control and can be done with a real blade. We also see it in the HEMA manuals. I can also control from the inside, like before. If you don't control it like this, it can switch hands and hurt you. Some people claim that aggressors don't switch hands. They do. Here it happened and it ended badly. I'm not going to gamble with it. With a rear arm end, to take the back, one hand pushes the rear shoulder, while the other hand pulls the other arm and moves behind. You must immediately control the neck and the arm, keeping his arm straight and to the side. You can also switch to an overhook for stronger control, also controlling the tricep and elbow with your hand. You have a strong control, but you must immediately break the posture and throw. Otherwise, he might throw you. If the front hand is armed, you must do an arm drag and control with the overhook. To enter, use an elbow to the solar plexus, and while doing the arm drag, strike the groin with a knee strike. Then you can move on to the Russian tie or rear control. This technique works also for impact weapons like a glass bottle, a baton, a baseball bat, a hammer, and even longer blades. Of course, the longer the reach, the harder it is to defeat them. Striking is a good option against a knife when done correctly. You have to strike precisely and hard, ideally from an angle while keeping the knife away. Do not stand and trade punches and kicks for slashes and stabs. Kicks can be used, but they have to be fight-enders or help you draw a tool. Otherwise, they can backfire. If you fall or your leg gets injured and you can move, it's a big problem. To train, you have to learn the techniques, then practice with a partner in semi-realistic drills. Ultimately, spar with resistance and intent, simulating various scenarios. Here you will have to constantly adapt and flow from one technique to another and improvise. It's also important to spar against people who know how to strike, grapple, and use a knife. They will counter you, you will lose a lot, but this will greatly improve your skills against untrained aggressors. Of course, you also have to include scenarios on the ground. As a knife, you can use a plastic bottle. They are cheap, of different sizes, and you can strike hard and fast without problems. If you know that you are at high risk of knife attacks, maybe because you live in a bad neighborhood, there are some tools you can carry to help you survive. Guns are not included because it's obvious that if you can carry one, you should. Pepper spray. Carry more than one if legal. This is the best prevention. However, it doesn't replace fighting knowledge. Many things could go wrong with it. Stab and slash resistance vest to support your combat skills. With this, you will only need to protect the uncovered areas, like your neck, and it greatly increases the chance of surviving. Some people use riveted chainmail armor. It works too. Hemostatic agents, wound packing gauze, tourniquets, occlusive chest seals for long stabs, and of course, the training to use them. This could save your life after an aggression, but with heavy injuries, they must be readily available to be employed before you pass out. Other options to carry might be a powerful flashlight, a sturdy umbrella, or a walking stick. I've tried to be comprehensive in this video, but there is much more to be said and taught. I talk about manner, time, and measure, but in a complete combat system, there are other factors like mindset, strategy, tactics, and physical conditioning. To train them effectively, you need a method, rational, practical, and built on evidence and expertise. In my online course, I will teach everything you need to know to optimize your combat skills. Keep in mind that it's still under construction, so you can buy it now for a lower price and follow the updates. Link in description. Thank you for your confidence. Be intrepid in our ship.